Coming in, yeah.
So let's talk about, we've mentioned their names a lot. Let's talk about Paratici. Let's talk about Antonio Conte.
You went against the Italians, is that it?
The Italian job.
Shock horror, I mean, are you talking about Italians? No. How important have they been in this whole process? Has Paratici finally shown, the way for Tottenham Hotspur? Do you think he's now gone in there, not given Daniel Levy a bollocking per se, but he's kind of gone, you've got this stadium, you've had these amazing players. Like whenever we've done a preview, it's always been Spurs are a really good side, but do you think that there's potential with Paratici and Conte that their impact will see, let's say, quote unquote, Spursiness disappear? Do you think that it's like the Paratici and Conte effect is the antidote to Tottenham bottling things?
I think so. I think Antonio Conte is definitely changing the way Spurs are working, changing the mentality within the club, maybe changing the perception from outside the club as well. But when Paratici first joined, last summer, it was a bit of a mess because we spent 75 days trying to get Nuno in. Transfer business wasn't exactly the best. Yeah, we got Christian Romero last summer, but apart from that, our transfer business last summer was pretty poor. And that was under Paratici before Conte came. I think it's actually taken for Conte to come to get that real direction within the club and to get the actual players that we need through the door, because some of the business last summer, like we signed Brian Hill for 25 million plus Eric Lamela. That is a terrible deal in my opinion, and a couple of other deals that we had were very questionable. But since the direction of Antonio, them two together is it's a recipe for success in my opinion.
Do you feel that you're seeing almost like the blueprint of when Juventus weren't quite good? They finished 7th, Antonio Conte came in. I don't know if Paratici was there at the start, but do you think they're following like a blueprint which they set out at Juve, which was bringing these sort of players to redevelop and push on? Or is it a situation where you feel that, it's now, okay, we could push on in a year, or right, we want an FA Cup, we want a League Cup, we want something now? Do you think that that's what they're trying to balance it at?
Absolutely, and like at Spurs, we've never actually seen like a clear, direct plan in our transfers. We're always like mixing and matching, trying to find someone that's going to work, whether it be lucky or not, whether it does work. Now you're seeing us target specific players with specific attributes to fit the Antonio Conte way, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. And it's the first time in my lifetime where I can say that we've actually had an unbelievable window.
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole Conte-Paratici partnership is what's going to bring us forward right now. I think every Spurs fan can see that. Everyone is pulling in the same direction, and I think finally we've got two people who know what it's like to be at a big club, who have been winning year in, year out. And I think we've needed that experience and we've needed that change in attitude. And I think that's the path we're on right now, and that's what we're all hoping for. And it might take more time than maybe a year or so. And there's always that insecurity that how long is Conte going to be here for, and all that kind of stuff. But the way we're acting and the way we're going, maybe Conte and Paratici might have found a home here, and that's what we're all hoping for.
And it always seemed like in the past of Spurs, there's always been a power struggle between the chairman, the manager, the sporting director, whether it be Martin Yol, Kamoli, whether it be Arneson, all these guys that we've brought in over the years. There's always been some sort of a power struggle. But because Conte and Paratici know each other so well and they've worked with each other in the past, and they're obviously really good mates, I think that's obviously a massive recipe for success in my opinion.
Louis, how do you think Conte fits in at Spurs compared to how he was fitting in at Chelsea?
I think you backed him. I think, when we look at how he was at Chelsea, I think the whole situation in terms of Marina and him kind of having this power struggle, I think there's no doubt he had a selection over some of the players. I mean, and some of them were absolutely atrocious. But that's because they were option 3, option 4. Marina at that point was going for, okay, we're not going to go for that top target, we're going to go for this guy in the middle. Like a prime example is, so I know we brought in Willy Caballero, he was option 3. Top first choice for us apparently was Jack Butland. We wanted him to come in and be that guy who was going to, be a number 2 and challenge Courtois at the time, because we knew Courtois was like, okay, Jack Butland can then step up and be the Chelsea number 1. But obviously that didn't materialise, and Leopold Kepa appeared a year later.
Well, why did it go wrong for him at Chelsea? What was your take on that?
it just got very toxic very quickly. He's very stereotypically Italian in his thought processes.
Very fiery.
Yeah. So it's like he's got this sort of. When he wasn't getting what he wanted, he then started almost. I think it almost turned into self-sabotage. So the way that he was dealing with certain situations, the way he was dealing with certain situations, the whole thing was a bit. Okay, well, I've got this to deal with. Fuck you. I've not done this. You've not done what I want, so I'm not going to do what you want. And then he just started throwing his toys out the pram, which, you know, could happen at Spurs, I think. The only way I can see that happening is because
he doesn't get backed.
He doesn't get backed, and say, for example, the players aren't delivering. You know.
Do you buy into the narrative, Louis, that Conte can't last over 2-3 years in a job because of how intense he is? Because, you know, a lot of people have said that. Gary Neville has been saying that on Sky Sports in the past year. Yeah, but that's something different. I mean, do you buy into that narrative? Because I think it's a load of bollocks, really.
I mean, I think it depends. I think if you're Tottenham, I mean, when did he go to Juve? 2011?
He was there for 3 years, or 3-4 years, I think.
2011, yeah.
The only reason he left Juve was because he hit any job count.
Yeah.
So we can't really answer that question. Is it because of X, Y, Z reasons, or is it actually because he is just quite passionate and knows what he wants from everyone? I think that there's a manager in there who knows what he wants, develops. I think the football he plays can be intense. I mean, I think a prime example to look at someone else who did it. Look at Bielsa. You know, their philosophies are quite similar in terms of, you know, Bielsa's is just pretty much, I think his words are pretty much fucking run. Yeah. And Conte's is eat grass. You know, he wants his players to be built in his image of what he was when he was a player. So, do I think that there is the potential that after 2-3 years he starts rubbing it the wrong way? Absolutely. I think that, you know, it's down to his mentality about how he operates. You know, but I think in modern footballers, let's be honest, I personally feel like, you know, football's changed quite a lot. I think if Conte was a manager around the early noughties, he would be, you know, tearing up anyone he was with because the mentality was different. But now, you look at the players that we've got, he does rub people the wrong way, and that's fine. But I think if you're winning trophies with Conte, he can't rub you the wrong way because you can sort of turn around and go, well, we've done this, boys. Like, we do it my way, or, you know, do it someone else's where you're not going to win. If I was Conte walking into that Spurs dressing room, I'd do very much what Mourinho did in 03-04. You know, he'd turn around and go, cool, what have you won? Nothing. But you think you're the best player in the world. Win something and prove it. Harry Kane, right now, he can turn around, we can say he's one of the best strikers, you know, in the world right now. 20 years from now, no one's going to look at that. They'll be like, okay, yeah, it was good centre forward. Did he win anything? Well, no. So then that argument becomes, you know, is he the best player? You know, is he?
I think it's a bit different. Like if he ends up like Premier League top goal scorer of all time, if he ends up Tottenham top goal scorer of all time, you know, you're still going to put him on that pedestal of one of the best strikers ever.
Yeah, you can't say no one will remember him if he's going to be the Premier League top goal scorer.
No, but then look at Shearer.
And what, people don't remember him?
People remember Shearer, but they go, still could have done more. You know, turned down a move to United, could have done this, could have done that.
And he won a Premier League title.
And he won a Premier League title.
Yeah.
If Harry Kane doesn't win a Premier League title, doesn't win anything, you know, that's a...
Yeah, but Shearer's always in the conversation when you talk about best ever Premier League strikers.
Yeah.
Look, up there.
I'm not discrediting Harry Kane, by the way. I think he's a superb centre forward. This isn't me saying I think he's crap. I'm just saying that I think that there's certain elements where people might look at it and be like, has he done it? Have Tottenham delivered? Which is what we're talking about with.
Yeah, but I think they'll be wrong. I think they'll be wrong.
Yeah, of course you'll. But it's like it's a conversation which people haven't. But I think, you know, if they're the sort of managers who are good at, and coaches and this whole cult, it's a bit of a culture shock at Spurs. Let's be honest. After how poor you were last year, Conte came in and went, right, this. And straight away, bang, you saw a huge difference. Yeah. And the signings as well. Kulusevski, like...
Yeah, he's been exceptional.
Like, you talk about, you know, super subs and players that can come on and make a difference. Like, my God. I haven't seen someone like Kulusevski for ages. I think the last time I could think super sub who's going to come on and make a difference was Giroud at the start at Chelsea or when he was at Arsenal. You know, I don't look at anyone right now though, they come on and you go, right, okay, this person's going to change the game. Kulusevski now, if he's not starting, he comes on, you're worried.
He's revolutionised our attack completely. We've gone from Lucas Moura in that position to Kulusevski, and the difference between them is absolutely night and day. It really is. And when you're looking at our attack now with Kulusevski on the right, Sonny on the left, Kane up top, there's not many teams in the Premier League that can offer a bolstered line like that. There really isn't.
It's a really interesting.
The only comparable one you have, I think, is probably Man City, really, where you got Haaland, Foden, and who on the other side? You're probably looking at Mahrez.
Mahrez, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.